Welcome back AP Gov students. Today is McCulloch v. Maryland, another AP Gov required case. I'm going to be going over all the key points from this case that you need to know for the exam. This case was heard in 1819 and it is part of the Constitutional Foundation's theme of all the required cases. So shortly before this case was heard, Congress created the Second Bank of the United States. This is a successor to the first national bank that Congress created. And in the city of Baltimore, there is a branch of this national bank, and Maryland tried to tax the bank, but James McCulloch, who was a clerk or a teller or some worker at the bank, refused to pay the tax. McCulloch represented a lawsuit on sort of two questions. One, whether the federal government even had the power to create a bank, and whether a state could tax it. This case has to do with the Necessary and Proper Clause found in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. This clause allows Congress to sort of extend and interpret what their powers should be beyond what is explicitly stated in the Constitution. And this also has to do with the Supremacy Clause in Article 4, which pretty simply states that federal laws trump state laws. So the key question here is, does the federal government have the authority to create a bank, and can a state tax said bank? And the concept surrounds the implied powers beyond the Constitution and also federalist structures between the federal government and the states. So for the decision, the court ruled in favor of McCulloch and the federal government. It said that Congress can create a national bank under the Necessary and Proper Clause. Since Congress has explicit powers having to do with money in the economy, it's reasonable that they're allowed to create a national bank under what is necessary and proper. It also ruled following the supremacy principle that states cannot tax federal institutions, as it ruled that the power to tax is similar to the power to destroy. The logic here is that taxing by principle is punching down. When you levy taxes, you are levying a policy onto your constituents below you. So states can't punch up at the federal government like they can't tax the federal government. And the court ultimately said that federal laws are supreme over state laws. The significance here is that it established the legitimacy of implied powers and reinforced federal supremacy, so it set a precedent that the Necessary and Proper Clause can be used often and sort of how Congress deems it to work. It also widened the role of the federal government in economic and legislative matters. The national banks became the precursor to what we have with the Fed today that sets interest policies, interest rates, taxing banks, all that stuff. It also serves as precedent in debates surrounding federalism, how policy power relates between the federal government and the state government, who has control over what. So this is an easy case to cite in the context of federalism. And that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next case, and goodbye. Yo, if you're super cool and awesome, you should follow my Twitter or X if you're that kind of person. It's at Clark4724. I post a lot of random stuff on there, but I also post channel updates and when my next videos are coming out. So if you're gonna keep watching my channel, then I recommend you follow, and thanks.